Hey everyone, welcome back to Media. If you enjoy honest movie reviews, rankings, and everything cinema, make sure to leave a like if you enjoy the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on future reviews. Now, let's talk about Troy. Christopher Nolan has just released what I genuinely believe is one of the greatest historical epics ever made with The Odyssey. So naturally, the first thing I did afterwards was go back and watch Troy. And you know what? After 20 years, it still holds up far better than I remembered. Now, before I get into this review, I think it's important to make one thing clear. I've never read the Iliad, so I'm not going to pretend to know exactly how historically or mythologically accurate this film is. I know that's where a lot of the criticism comes from, but honestly, I think we sometimes forget one important thing. This is a movie. Movies adapt books, myths, and historical events all the time. And sometimes they have to take creative liberties if they're trying to tell the most engaging cinematic story possible. If every adaptation stuck rigidly to the source material, we'd probably end up with a lot of films that aren't nearly as entertaining. For me, Troy succeeds because it tells an epic story, creates memorable characters, and delivers some incredible action. Even if it isn't completely faithful to the Iliad, I think it's a fantastic blockbuster in its own right. Now, obviously comparing it to The Odyssey isn't really fair. Christopher Nolan has delivered what I genuinely believe is a masterpiece of cinema. Visually, emotionally, technically, it's operating on a whole other level. But that doesn't suddenly make Troy a bad movie. In fact, far from it. I still think this is one of the greatest swords and sandals action films ever made. I'd happily put it alongside classics like Gladiator and Spartacus. It absolutely deserves to be in that conversation. Now, let's get the negatives out of the way first. My biggest issue with this movie is actually the score. I know some people love it, but it never really worked for me. The film is aiming for this grounded, realistic portrayal of the Trojan War, but the music often sounds like it's from a completely different film. Rather than complementing the gritty atmosphere, parts of it remind me of a desert adventure movie than an epic historical war film. It just doesn't fit the tone for me. My second complaint is the romance between Achilles and Briseis. I hope I'm saying that right. From what I understand, this is one of those additions made for the film, and honestly, I don't think it was needed. Every time the film shifts its focus into their relationship, the pacing slows down. I was far more invested in the war, the politics, and everything happening between the Greeks and the Trojans. And then, finally, the ending. I love the build-up to the Trojan horse because everyone knows what's coming. It's one of the most famous moments in history and mythology. But once the horse is brought into Troy, everything happens so quickly. The final battle feels like it's over in no time. I really wish they'd let that reveal breathe for a little longer. This should have been a terrifying moment for the audience as they realize exactly what's about to happen to the people of Troy. Instead, it feels like the film rushes to the finish line. One side note, I cannot stand Paris. Every single bad thing that happens in this film is because one bloke couldn't keep his emotions in check. Thousands die. Troy burns, his brother dies, his father dies, all because he fancies someone else's wife. It's one of cinema's greatest examples of actions having consequences. I know this isn't exactly a criticism because that's the story, but every time I see Orlando Bloom's ridiculously handsome face appear on screen, I just want to punch him. But anyway, on to the positives. The action in this movie is phenomenal. And I think the reason it still works today is because it feels so real. There are no superheroes to be seen, no magic powers, no impossible choreography. These men are exhausted. They bleed. They struggle. Every shield hits hurts. Every spear feels like it has real weight behind it. This isn't legend dressed up as blockbuster cinema. It's blockbuster cinema dressed up as history. And Troy never asks you to believe in gods. It asks you to believe in men. That's why it makes every battle feel so intense. And then there's the cast. Brad Pitt obviously is fantastic as Achilles. He has that confidence, that presence that immediately commands your attention. But for me, Eric Bana steals the film as Hector. He is, without question, the best character in this movie. He's honourable, loyal, and fighting for his family and his home rather than his own glory. And that final duel between Achilles and Hector, even though I've seen this film multiple times, I still find myself gripping the sofa. That's how good the build-up is. You know exactly what's coming, but a small part of you is still hoping Hector somehow survives. When Achilles is standing outside the walls of Troy, repeatedly shouting Hector's name, challenging him to come out and face him, the tension is incredible. You know this confrontation is inevitable, and the film builds towards it perfectly. It's still one of the greatest one-on-one battles ever put to a historical movie, in my opinion. The production value deserves a lot of praise as well. I actually think Troy has aged better than most people give it credit for. In an era where so many blockbusters rely on green screens and CGI spectacle, Troy still feels tangible. The practical sets, the huge armies, the real locations, the grounded combat give it a weight that a lot of modern historical epics struggle to match. So overall, if you're looking for an intense historical action movie that focuses on grounded warfare rather than gods, monsters, and mythology, Troy is still absolutely worth your time. Will Troy ever reach the heights of Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey? No. But that's hardly an insult because very few films will. What Troy remains is one of the greatest historical action movies of the 2000s, and 20 years later, it still delivers spectacular battles, memorable performances, and one of the best duels ever put to screen. I'm giving Troy a solid 4.5 out of 5. If you've seen Troy, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Do you think it's underrated? Do you think the criticism surrounding the historical accuracy is justified? And if you've enjoyed this review, don't forget to leave a like if you found it helpful, subscribe for more honest movie reviews every week, and I'll see you at the next one. Thank you so much for watching.